The sound started like water in a pipe, a quiet metal groan behind the walls that didn't match any faucet I'd used that day, but I noticed it first in the quiet after the coffee pot shut off and the fridge's hum dipped just before I sat down. Again in the chair by the kitchen window, there's a kind of silence only an old house knows. A stillness like it's listening back, or worse, remembering I didn't believe in any of that. I still don't, not really, but I need to get this out. While I can still track the pieces in order before it all folds into itself again, I moved in last November, a one-bedroom bottom unit in a duplex no one really wanted. The neighborhood's fine but tired. The lease was short, cheap, and signed fast. The landlord barely made eye contact, just showed me the downstairs, handed me the keys, and said the upstairs was sealed off. Something about unfinished repairs. I didn't ask questions. I liked the quiet, the solitude. I liked the idea of a whole floor above me that didn't belong to anyone. It felt like space to think, space to breathe. But the silence isn't empty, it's heavy. There's a difference at first. It was little things. A shift in temperature directly below the ceiling. Fan, even when it wasn't running, a creak above me around 315 each night. Never earlier, never later, just one wooden sigh like a step the first time. I froze, not because I thought someone was up there, but because the sound didn't feel like it came from outside me. It was like I remembered it a second before I heard it, like déjà vu with no origin. That kind of thing doesn't make sense to people until it happens to them. And when I told Alan, he's a friend, or was, he laughed and said maybe the place was just settling. They all do that, he said, like bones after a long walk. I wrote it off, but I started noticing that I only ever heard it if I was sitting completely still. One night, I stayed up just to see. I sat with a notepad and watched the minute hand pass 3. I told myself I'd imagined it all. Then 3:15, right on time, a long slow creak, not like weight, not like someone walking, more like someone adjusting, like a shift in posture. That's the part that made my stomach go cold. The second sound, the small one, like an elbow brushing drywall. I didn't move, I barely breathed, and I swear, I felt the air above me pulse, like something passed through it, like something upstairs knew I'd noticed. The next day, I tried the upstairs door, dead-bolted, dusty. Nothing strange about it, except I had a memory, not a strong one, more like a half feeling, that I'd been through that door before, that I'd stepped into the dark and turned left, but I hadn't, not since moving in. I shook it off until I found the note, folded in quarters, slipped behind the breaker box in the hall closet. No name, just handwriting, jagged and urgent, like it was written fast and hidden faster. He doesn't leave, he doesn't sleep, he listens through the floor. Don't let him think you hear him. That was all. I put it in my drawer and didn't tell anyone. I told myself it was a prank, or worse, a joke I'd written myself. I started wondering if I was forgetting things, like gaps in my day I couldn't explain, like the calendar on my fridge shifting back 2 days, then correcting itself the next morning. The man upstairs, if you want to call him that, never made a full noise. No walking, no dragging, no cough or voice. Just one sound, always at 315. Always just one, and then something new. A smell, not rot, not mildew, something old, like burnt paper, like photographs too close to heat, and the air would feel tight, like static right before a shock. Then it would pass, always gone by morning. I told myself it was psychological, that I was just anxious, but I started leaving my phone's voice recorder running at night, just to prove to myself I was wrong. I never listened to the full nights, just spot checked. But one morning, I noticed the file was shorter than it should have been, only 3 hours and 16 minutes. I pressed play. Nothing but the usual, blankets rustling, heater kicking on. Then at 314 and 58 seconds there was a sound, not a groan, not human, something between a sigh and a word. But so quiet, it sounded like it was whispered into fabric, and then nothing. Then the audio corrupted. Just a soft high pitch and silence. I should have moved out then. But something about it drew me in. I wanted to understand it. I started sleeping in different rooms. At 315, it didn't matter. Wherever I was, the sound came from directly above. If I slept in the kitchen, it came from the ceiling near the sink. If I slept near the front door, it came from the upstairs hallway. Always accurate, always following. That's when I stopped telling people. Because how do you explain that without sounding like you've lost it? Then came the first real shift. I came home late from work and the kitchen chair was pulled out slightly. Not a lot, maybe 4 inches. I stood staring at it for longer than I'd like to admit. I don't remember leaving it like that, but I also couldn't prove I hadn't, so I pushed it in, went to bed, and set up the recorder again. This time video, just pointed at the ceiling. I watched the footage the next day. Nothing moved, but the time code skipped. Just before 315, the footage jumped. 6 seconds, just blank, and the chair, in frame only partially, was nudged slightly again, not by force, just not where I left it. The day after, I got a call from the landlord, said someone had reported activity upstairs. I told him I lived alone, reminded him the top unit was sealed. He paused, so he'd never rented the top floor since the last guy didn't finish the lease, he mumbled. Back in 2011, sad story. I asked what happened. He said he just stopped leaving, left his job. His friend said he went quiet. Police found him 2 months later. No forced entry, no sign of struggle, just he trailed off, then said, "You sure you're doing okay down there?" I lied, sighed I was fine. But something about the way he said just stuck with me, like he wasn't sure how to end the sentence. That night I opened the drawer and read the note again. I flipped it over. I hadn't noticed before. On the back, in lighter ink, barely visible unless held to the light. He doesn't remember he's dead. He thinks he still lives here. Don't move the chair. My stomach dropped. I had moved the chair twice. That night the sound at 315 was different, louder, and not alone. There was a second noise, softer, like someone settling into a seat. I couldn't sleep. I left the light on. At some point I must have dozed off because I woke to find the chair pulled back again. This time fully turned toward the hallway. My throat dried instantly. The front door was still locked, the windows shut, nothing broken. Nothing stolen, just the chair. Like someone had been watching the hall, waiting. I stopped sleeping after that. Or if I did, I didn't know. I'd lose time. Wake up standing. Wake up with the video app open on my phone, pointed at the ceiling. One morning I woke up holding the note crumpled and damp in my hand, like I'd clutched it all night. But the worst thing, the absolute worst, was the photo on my table, printed, curled at the corners, clearly old. It showed a man sitting in the chair, my room, but it wasn't a photo I'd taken. He was slightly turned, face mostly shadowed, but something about the posture, it felt familiar, like I'd seen it before, like I'd mirrored. He tried to get out, called the landlord. Again, no answer. Drove to his office, closed windows, covered. I called Alan. He came by, looked around, said everything looked normal. I asked if he heard the creak. He said no. I asked if the upstairs made him feel off. He said it was just an old place, and maybe I needed sleep. But before he left, he paused at the hallway, looked up, said, "Do you have a light on up there?" I said no. He nodded slowly, didn't say anything else. He hasn't returned my calls since then. Last Thursday, the door to the upstairs was unlocked, not open, just no longer latched. I didn't open it, I swear, but it was ajar. A half-inch, maybe less. The smell was stronger, burnt paper, old film. Like memory cooked too long. I taped it shut. That night 315 came with no sound. Instead I felt something, a change in air pressure. A presence. I didn't hear him. I felt him right above me, right still, as if waiting, and in that silence I realized something unbearable. Maybe I was the one intruding. Maybe this place was never mine. Maybe it just tolerated me. Until I noticed too much. I haven't left the house in 4 days. I keep checking the chair. It keeps turning toward the hallway, no matter what room I leave it in. I moved it to the closet, and the next morning, it was back in the kitchen, angled perfectly to face the door. There's a rhythm now every night at 315. Not just a sound, but a shift in the house. Like it's breathing, like it's remembering. And this morning, I found a second photo. Same chair, same room, same man. But this time he's looking at the camera, and I swear to you, it looks like me, just slightly off, slightly older, but may think I've been upstairs. I think I've gone without knowing the gaps in memory, the sleepwalking. The sounds, I think he's been trying to show me something, or worse, remind me the calendar hasn't changed in a week, still stuck on the 7th. My phone says today's the 15th. I don't remember the days in between, and just now before I hit record on this, I found the lease agreement in a drawer. I don't remember opening two names, mine, and under previous tenant, a name I don't recognize, scratched out hard, almost illegible, but the signature matches mine exactly, stroke for stroke, letter for letter. I don't think the man upstairs ever left. I think he lives here. I think I became him, or maybe I always was. Maybe that's why the chair keeps turning. Maybe that's why the sound comes only when I'm still, because he's waiting for the moment I finally remember. The moment I finally stop pretending this was ever my home. The moment I accept I've been living in someone else's memory all along, and now the chair's empty. The door is open, and I can hear the creak, but I'm not sitting anymore. I'm standing. I think I've been standing for hours, and something is watching me through the floor, waiting to take its turn. It was supposed to be empty, just a quick sweep before they sealed it for good. But the tunnel still had air in it, and something else. Didn't even want the call, not really, not that night. I was already halfway through a cigarette in the parking lot, and Stevens was doing his usual routine of dragging out paperwork, so he didn't have to walk into anything darker than a supermarket. But dispatch said it was protocol final sweep before decommission, just a check-in on the old Fairgrove drain tunnel, the one behind the collapsed lumberyard, where all the kids used to tag the walls and dare each other to scream. They closed it off 10 years ago after that landslide blocked the northern exit, but somebody cut the fence last week, and someone claimed they saw a light inside. No trespassers found, no footsteps leading in or out, just the faint sound of what they thought was a scream. But by the time officers got there, it had stopped, nothing recorded, nothing saved, just a complaint. Logged, barely worth attention. I remember thinking it was probably a raccoon, maybe a copperhead. Still, Stevens bailed last second. Headache, he said. So I drove out alone. I kept the body cam running, standard issue. I didn't even think about it. It was automatic, like buckling in. You can hear the gravel under my boots, the way it changes texture near the entrance. Wet grit replacing dry dust. You can hear the air shift, how it cools too quickly, like you're stepping into a basement that never properly aired out. The mouth of the tunnel wasn't impressive, just brick and mildew and rusted rails from when the carts used to run through. But the second you cross the threshold, your ears feel like they've been stuffed with cotton. That was the first thing I noticed, a thick, pressing silence, like walking underwater. But that's not what made me stop. What made me stop was the wall right at the entrance to the right, just past where the kids would spray their names or crude jokes. Someone had scratched something new, recent, deep. I turned my flashlight on it. A sentence. 7 words, jagged and uneven. You forget before you reach the bend. It didn't even register at first. I just said it out loud. Body cam catches that too. You forget before you reach the bend. Then I kept walking, maybe 30 feet in. That's when I realized my radio was dead. I'd checked it in the car. Working fine, but now just static. Not even full static, like half a signal faint. And flickering, like trying to tune an old TV, and catching half a voice just under the snow. I thought I heard my name. Once I tapped it, twice tried calling dispatch. Nothing. The cam caught me stopping again, shuffling, listening, then whispering to myself. I don't remember doing that, but I watched it later, over and over. I was whispering the same sentence, that one on the wall, again and again. Each time quieter, like I was trying to remind myself of something I already knew I'd forget. There's this bend in the tunnel about 80 feet in. The city map says it was built that way to force water pressure to slow before it reached the overflow pipe. It's not sharp, but it's sudden, and the second I reached it, something shifted, not in the air. In my head, it was like I blinked wrong. Not just a blink like I skipped a second. I was mid-step, and then I wasn't. My foot was already down, and the flashlight was pointing in a different direction, and I wasn't sure what I'd just seen. I thought I saw something on the wall, a mirror, or a surface acting like one, But there's no metal in there, no glass, just concrete and old rust. Still, I spun around, shined the light back, nothing. Just water dripping in the same 4 places rhythm. Too exact to be natural. I took out my phone to use as backup light and noticed the time. It said 11:06. I had entered at 10:22. That can't be right. I hadn't been in for more than 10 minutes. Tops, I checked my watch, 10:28. 6-minute difference, I checked. Again, watch still said 10:28, phone still said 11:06. I laughed, I actually laughed. Body cam catches that too, this short, stupid chuckle. Not nervous, more like recognition, like it had happened before. I took a breath and kept walking. The light didn't reach far anymore. It had this thick quality, like trying to shine through syrup. Not fog, just a resistance. Every step started sounding the same. Same splash, same echo, like the tunnel was folding itself. Like it was one long repeating second, and I kept resetting inside it. Then I saw it, or I thought I did, a figure maybe 30 feet ahead, facing away, motionless. I called out, got no reply, stepped forward. It didn't move. I aimed the light at it, and it wasn't there, not even a shadow, just the illusion of shape, like my brain filled in something that wasn't real. I said my name aloud again, for the recording, then something whispered it back. Quiet, identical from behind. The cam shows me turn, nothing there, just more tunnel, but my face, I watched it later, my face says something else. I'm smiling, barely, not happy, not scared, just familiar, like I expected it, like I'd heard it before. Then the worst part, the absolute worst, I found my name carved into the wall, not just once, dozens of times at waist height, like someone had knelt down and dragged something sharp over and over. M. Calloway, in my handwriting. Overlapping, rushed, like I was running out of time. There's even a moment where I stop moving, stand completely still. And I ask in the most casual tone, how many times have I been here? Not to the camera, not to myself, to someone or something that wasn't visible. That didn't answer, but must have, because I started crying right after, not loud, just tears. No expression. The kind of crying you do when you finally accepted something you can't explain. I don't remember turning around. I don't remember leaving, but I do remember the sound that came just before the footage cut. The sound that, to this day, returns in my sleep at exactly 3:41 a.m. A dragging, not a shuffle. Not footsteps, a pull. Like something heavy being dragged across gravel, but never lifting. A slow scrape, rhythmic. I don't know why the cam cut. I don't remember touching it, but the last frame shows the wall again. This time with a new sentence scratched fresh under the others. Don't tell them what you saw. And I haven't, not fully, not until now when I got back in the car. The dash clock said 12:03. My watch said 10:49. I felt sick, not dizzy, just displaced, like I was wearing someone else's clothes. I tried to play the footage, but it wouldn't load. Said file corrupt. I tried again later at home using backup software. It played fine, perfectly fine. Every second, every whisper, every word, except there was one problem. The footage was dated 3 weeks prior, June 4th, not June 25th. And when I checked my log, I had no shifts that week. I'd been out, sick leave, flu. I checked my emails. No mention of the tunnel call. Dispatch denied sending anyone records. Showed no report filed. No record of my cam being active. Except the footage was real. The audio was clear. And in the background of one segment, if you listen closely, if you slow it down, you can hear someone say, "We already told you." Quiet, almost buried in the static. And I don't know what that means. It got worse over the next week. Small things began to shift. Not in the house, in my routine coffee filter on the wrong side of the sink, shoes placed facing in instead of out, my toothbrush dry before I touched it. Not every day. Just enough to notice. I thought maybe I was overtired, stress, hallucinations. But then the footage changed. Not entirely, just one detail. The wall, the carvings, they weren't there anymore. Same tunnel, same steps, same flashlight. But no words, just blank concrete, and my voice, when I whispered. It wasn't mine, not quite close, almost perfect, but flatter, less informed, like someone was imitating. The memory of me, I shut it off, haven't watched since. but the cam sometimes it turns on by itself. No footage captured, just a light blinking, waiting. And at 3:41 a.m. every night my phone buzzes once. No notification, no alert, just one vibration. Then silence. I've tried deleting the file, burning the card, wiping the system. But every morning it's back in a new folder, with a new name. And I always look, I always watch, even when I tell myself not to, and every time there's one more change. Last night the figure was closer, no longer facing away, still out of focus, still half there, but I could see something. The shape of my badge, my belt, my hand, raised holding a flashlight, pointing at me. Don't patrol anymore. I filed for medical leave. Said it was stress fatigue, no one questioned it, but sometimes I see kids near that fence again, daring each other to go in. I want to scream at them, grab them, warn them, but what would I say? That the tunnel makes copies, that it remembers you better. Then you remember yourself, that it's not haunted, just rehearsed. Like a stage that never stops running the same scene, only worse because each time it gets closer to the truth. Was no ghost, no monster, no curse, just something I left behind. Or maybe something I brought in, a loop I completed without realizing. A version of myself that never left, still whispering that sentence over and over, as if it ever helped. As if remembering could stop what was already repeating. I haven't told anyone, not really, just left this here. Just in case someone else hears the sound. Just in case they see the wall. Just in case the tunnel opens again. Because the final message scratched so faint, it only showed up under light from a different angle. Wasn't a warning, it was a request, or maybe a resignation. If you find this, finish what I couldn't.